Muslim from Imran bin Hussein radiallahu anhu, Allah's Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, "The best of my ummah is my generation, then those who follow them, then those who follow them." Imran said, "I don't know if he mentioned after his generation 2 or 3. Then there will come a generation who will be ready to witness without being requested to do so. And also there will be treacherous and untrustworthy. They will take oaths for vowing but never fulfill them, and obesity will be seen in them." Also reported in Muslim and Al-Bukhari from Ibn Masud radiallahu anhu is that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "The best of mankind is my generation, then those who come after them, then those who come after them. Thereafter will come a people whose witness will go ahead of their oaths, and their oaths will go ahead of their witnesses."
Ibrahim
Nakhi rahimullah said, "In our childhood we were beaten by our elders to stand firm on witnesses and covenants."
طيب. In these ahadith, obviously, very beautiful ahadith, very important ahadith, the Prophet said, the best generation or the best nation is my generation. Okay, so from the time of the creation of Adam until the day of judgment, no generation has come as good as the generation of the Sahaba. No generation. We're not talking about individual Sahaba are better than the Prophets. No, we're saying as a generation, as a whole group of people, no group has ever come as good as the Sahaba, as the companions of the Prophet ﷺ. What does this show, by the way? It shows you that the Sahaba had reached a perfection of Iman. No one can go above the level of the Sahaba. So they were perfect in their Aqidah. They were perfect in their fiqh. They were perfect in their manhaj, meaning the way that they call to Allah. They were perfect in their da'wah. They were perfect in their tazkiyah. In other words, if you want to know your religion, go back to the Sahaba. This hadith shows you, if you want to know your religion, go back to the Sahaba. This is one of the strongest proofs that we say. Almost all Muslims, they say we have to go to the Quran and Sunnah, then they put a full stop. Okay? Almost all Muslims, except for the Shi'as, they say we have to go back to the Quran and the Imams. They don't look at the Sunnah as that. But in general, the Sunni Muslims, they also have to go back to the Quran and the Sunnah. Well, the Barelvi says the same thing. The Qadiani, believe it or not, says the same thing. Okay? The Sufi says the same thing. The Ash'ari says the same thing. And the Ahlul Sunnah Jama'ah, they say the same thing. What is there that causes us to be different from them? We say we have to go back to the Quran and the Sunnah based on the understanding of the first 3 generations of Islam. And this hadith, which is in Bukhari and Muslim, shows you why. The Prophet said, the best generation are my companions. And then those that come after them, and then those that come after them. And this narrator, he says, I don't know if he mentioned 2 or 3. Other narrations show that he mentioned how many? 3. Clear, authentic narrations show that the Prophet ﷺ mentioned 3. The Sahaba, the Tabi'un, and the Taba Tabi'un. Okay? 3 generations. The fact that they are the best generations means what? Means they have perfected their aqidah. They don't have any bid'ahs in their aqidah. They don't have any innovations. Means that they have perfected their worship. They don't do any innovated acts. They worship Allah the way that He should be worshipped. Okay? Likewise, they have perfected their akhlaq, their manners, their etiquettes. Okay? Likewise, they have perfected their da'wah, how they give and call to the way of Allah. They have perfected their knowledge. If they have done this, then should we not turn to them to understand our religion? Of course. So this is the difference. All the groups, they say we go to the Quran and the Sunnah, full stop. We say we go to the Quran and Sunnah, but based on whose understanding? Mine? Yours? Imam so-and-so? No. We go to the Quran and the Sunnah based on the understanding of the Salaf, of the pious generations of Islam. The Sahaba, the Tabi'un, and the Taba Tabi'un. This is the differentiation between us and every single other group within the fold of Islam. Okay? That we take our religion based on the understanding of the Sahaba. How did they understand this religion? Because we consider them to be the best of all generations. Okay? And this is by the testimony of the Prophet ﷺ. Likewise, what does Allah say of them in the Quran? رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْهُمْ. Where do we get this phrase, رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْهُ? It is in the Quran. رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْهُمْ وَرَضُوا عَنْهُ. Allah is pleased with them and they are pleased with Him. In other words, Allah is pleased with the Sahaba and the Sahaba are pleased with Allah and His Messenger. Okay, so this shows you Allah has only used this phrase with regards to the Sahaba. No other generation after the Sahaba or before the Sahaba. Allah is pleased with them. Could Allah be pleased with people as the Shias say they all became kafirs after the Prophet died? Could Allah be pleased with these people? According to Shias, Abu Bakr and Umar and Uthman, the best of the Prophet's companions became kafirs. Could Allah be pleased with these people? No, of course not. Like many ulama say, the Shias, they don't realize that by cursing the companions, they curse the Prophet and they curse Allah automatically. They don't realize this. Like we said, how could the Prophet choose these people to be his companions? Was he that ignorant that he chose, as Abu Bakr, he chose Abu Bakr to be his father-in-law, and he chose Abu Bakr to be the one who led the people in prayer, and he chose Abu Bakr to be his best friend in this life, and the day that he died, Abu Bakr rejects his religion? Is this not showing that the Prophet ﷺ himself is ignorant? This is exactly what the Shiites are implying. And does this not then imply also that Allah did not choose for the Prophet the best companions? So, I heard Chpt15 say this in his khutbah, famous khutbah. He says this, the khutbah because of which he was, told not to give any more khutbahs. But he said this, that the Shiites, they don't realize in their stupidity, they curse Allah and His Messenger. They don't realize this. Because how could Allah choose for the Prophet ﷺ these type of companions? And how could the Prophet himself not see through them? For 23 years he's with Abu Bakr, and he's not going to be able to tell that he's a dishonest person? In fact, he said in one hadith that, I love him the most of all of men. Obviously his daughter was the one, Aisha was the one he loved the most of all women, and of men he said her father, Aisha's father. And in one hadith he said, I cannot take a Khalil, right? But if I were to take a Khalil, what is a Khalil? Who doesn't know what a Khalil is? A bosom friend, a close friend. I cannot take a Khalil because Allah has taken me to be Khalil. But if I were to take a Khalil, it would be Abu Bakr. Okay? It would be Abu Bakr. لَاتَّخَذْتُ أَبَا بَكْرٍ. Okay, it would be Abu Bakr. So the point is that the Sahaba are the generation that understood the religion of Islam the best. Therefore, when it comes to understanding Islam for ourselves, we prefer the understanding of the Sahaba versus the understanding of any alim that comes after them. Okay? Any renovator, any mujaddid, any founder of a philosophy or a methodology or a group. Because in our times we have so many different groups, each one has a certain founder that existed in the last century or this century. Okay? I don't want to mention names, but I hope you understand what I'm talking about. Each one has a certain founder. Okay? And they all say we're going to go to the Quran and the Sunnah. All of them. And they quote the Quran and the Sunnah. But on whose understanding? On that founder's understanding. Okay? So you find that all of their books are the Quran and Sunnah based on the understanding of this guy, of that guy. Okay, of their founders. Whereas we go back to the Quran and the Sunnah based on the understanding of the Salaf, the Sahaba. Okay, now, the point of this hadith, we went to stray a bit in this, but inshallah some benefit. The point of this hadith, the Prophet said, after these 3 generations are going to come people, they are going to give testimonies left and right. They're going to testify, swear by Allah all the time, even though they have not been asked to do so. In other words, they use Allah's name in vain all the time. They love to mention Allah's name for these false and vain talk. Okay? They're going to give testimony even before they are called to do so. They are going to be treacherous and untrustworthy. And they are going to perform vows but never fulfill them. Again, what is a vow? Who remembers what a vow is?
Something discouraged, but once it's made, you have to.
It's something that's discouraged, but once it's made, you have to fulfill it. Can you give me an example of a vow, our guest visitor today? A vow. It's an English word, vow. It's not an Arabic word. Yeah, I will do sajda, I will pray 20 rak'ahs if my son is cured from his illness. Okay, this is a vow. So the Prophet is describing them, and he's getting angry at them. He's describing them in a way that shows that they are not worthy of praise. He said they will always give vows and never fulfill it. Okay, so this shows you that giving vows is not encouraged, and fulfilling vows is obligatory. Okay, giving vows initially, we said this many times. To give a vow is discouraged in Islam. Once you have said it though, you have to fulfill it. Okay? Once you have made a vow to Allah, you have to fulfill it. And then the Prophet said, obesity is going to become common amongst them. To cure obesity in America is a multi-billion-dollar business. Multi-billion dollars. Turn on the TV anytime, you are bound. Well, I'm not advising you to the TV, I'm saying if you were to do so, okay, you are bound to see commercials about dieting. Okay? And this is a sign of love of this world. To be fat and to be, it's a sign of a love of this world, and it is not proper for the believers to be like this. It is not proper. It's not haram, but it's not proper. That the Prophet said that there's going to be obesity will be prevalent amongst them. Okay? So it is not proper for the believer to... Now some brothers, this is genetic. We're not talking about genetic problems. We're talking about they just stuff themselves all the time. This is not proper, the characteristics of a believer. The point of this hadith, what is the point of this hadith? What is the point of this hadith? Vows is one point. There's another point. They give testimonies all the time. Shahada, they always give testimony. They always swear by Allah without any need to do so. Okay? This is the point of the hadith. Likewise, in the next hadith, the Prophet said, the best generation are my generation. And then those that follow them, and then those that follow them. 3 generations. Clear. Okay? The Sahaba, the Tabi'un, the Taba Tabi'un. Okay? Then there are going to come a generation. Their testimony will be preceded by, how did he translate it as? Their vows, and their vows are going to precede their testimony. In other words, they just love to use Allah's name in their oaths and their swearings all the time. They don't think about what they are saying. Okay? There are people that they love to lie, they don't understand the problems or the dangers of lying. They don't understand how dangerous it is. That is why they like to use Allah's names in vain. And then Ibrahim al-Nakha'i. Who is Ibrahim al-Nakha'i? We went over this quite in detail. Very good. The student of Ibn Mas'ud, and the teacher of? No. Huh? Abu Hanifa. A student of Ibn Mas'ud, and a teacher of the teacher of Abu Hanifa. Ibrahim al-Nakha'i is the greatest link in the line between Ibn Mas'ud and Abu Hanifa. Ibrahim al-Nakha'i was the greatest scholar that linked Abdullah ibn Mas'ud to Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah ta'ala.